Okay, it's on.
Are you all seeing my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, as Punit said before, the focus of this iteration was to provide a physical way of doing the add dispute flow. So what I tried to do is here is isolate it to study it in detail and see. I started with these 4 things. First, the user flow that we will have, then the user needs, then we have the pain points and other alternative functionalities around this particular flow. So for the flow, it will be basically very simple. It will this will log into the application, then they will click in the action, in the call to action, to trigger this this form. Then it will fill up all the necessary information, and then it will click submit. When this happens, it will afterwards it will receive a feedback from the system saying that the submission was correctly or that the submission wasn't correctly at all, and it has to try again. For the user needs, what I listed here is that they will need to have access to the tool. They will need to have quick access to add a new dispute. They will have all the input fields to place the required information to process the dispute correctly. They will need to have clarity on which is the total disputed amount, which I've seen. This I've taken from the overcharge claims forms, the current one, which has on the top left. I found that that was a really important piece of information for the user, and also to have a quick access to submit this form. As for the pain points, I
have one input on
yes?
the clarification on the total dispute amount. Within the Edge application, the system calculates that amount for them. So they'd have to enter the individual pros and the amount, and then the system will, and then they just need to validate it. Right?
Yeah, that can happen. Yep.
Yes. Yes, for sure. I imagine in this new digital context that it will be basically in the context of adding the freight bills. They will have, and at the bottom of that table, it will have a total with the total disputed amount.
Yeah.
The same as in the dispute forms. As for the pain points, as I was saying, I will really want to see the suggestions that the overcharge teams have here in order to see if we can include some of these enhancements to the form into this new solution. You told me, Vivian, you told us on the last meeting that you have already gathered some suggestions from the team. It will be great if you can share it with us afterwards. As for the other functionalities, what I included here is that they will be a good thing to have to save the dispute as a draft, to work it later, to select, and here this one I will want to talk it about after I show the prototype. I don't want to focus on this right now, but I placed it that they would be nice to select the claimant's customer and contact information to at least link it to the user account. I made already a solution in the designs for this, and we'll review it in a couple of minutes. And then to notify them when the dispute cannot be submitted to a 180 statute of limitations surpass. So what I mean here is that I think we should have, when they are starting to fill this form, they should have like a notification of or a text that says, please check that if your dispute or if any of these freights have not surpassed the 180 set of a limitation.
So
And
I
if
want to
they,
just confirm something on that. So I think Vivian, recently we communicated on an email about this as well, right? To have an indicator in the internal app about 180 days, right? So this 180 day, how are we going to? Because if we have to give this message to the customer, we need to calculate it. Is it going to be just calendar days or weekdays, 180 weekdays? So we need to, because depending on that, we need to have the functionality, right? So how does this 180 days work? Is it the weekdays or the working days or the calendar days? Are you on mute by chance?
Yep, I was. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So the 180 days, and Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, will be calendar day count. And the only caveat to that is some customers may have exceptions to this rule. And I think it's more for internal use for us than so much for the customer. I think it ought to just indicate, just take the date that they say that it shipped and calculate and just kind of give them a warning or something, or an indicator.
So you mean we do not need to mention this to the customer, but once, let's say, even if it has surpassed 180 days, we will still let the customer submit it, but internally we will probably maybe communicate with them on the separately that, hey, you submitted this claim, but this is past the 180 days. Okay.
Just the way we do now. We accept all disputes, but then we will give them the reason for declining.
Oh, okay. So this could be a reason. So this could be one of the reason for rejection, you mean?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay. So I think, Martin, we will need to remove this if we have anything like this on the external app. So basically, we will not
Vivian,
have.
just for curiosity, where the users right now has this information? How they know about this information, the customers or the audit companies?
Most of them these are statutes that all of the freight companies are governed by, and they are told that within 180 days. But where the water gets a little murky is it 180 days from day of shipment? Is it 180 days from day of payment? Is it 180 days from day of delivery? So and at some point the customer doesn't care. They feel like they have a valid claim. They may have verbally discussed the situation with one of their sales reps and feel like that rule doesn't apply. So, but under the NMFC guidelines, that's a rule governed by all freight carriers, and they're very well aware of it. It's like I was showing you before when we go into the statute, what the rules governing how we process these. These are not XPO rules. These are national rules that apply across the board for freight carriers.
Right.
And that's standard, 180 days. But some customers have written within their contract overrides to that. I can submit it within 12 months after this, or I can submit it in so many. I have 500 days, or so there are exceptions to that rule, and that's why it would really need to be vetted by the auditor before a claim is declined for that.
So probably we'll let you guys handle that, right? Because if there could be exceptions, then we don't want to restrict the customer from submitting it. We will let them submit, and if there is an exception, you will approve or amend or whatever, and then if it's
exactly,
if it is not allowed, then you will let them know by rejecting it and saying, hey, it is past the 180 days. Okay.
Right. Correct.
And from your experience, do you have a lot of disputes that fall into this scenario, like a customer or an audit company requesting a dispute, which is afterwards rejected because of this?
Yes, there's quite. I wouldn't say it's I can pull numbers, but yeah, in the reporting there are some that are declined because of that. And what we're finding is that they'll group some outside of statutes with others that are in statute. So they'll provide me a claim that has 10 pros, and 4 of those pros are out of statute. And so in our analysis, we will amend that claim and say we approve these 6, but these 4 are outside of statute. And so we'll go back and forth with those, but it's a pretty regular occurrence.
Right. Okay. So for now, we eliminate this from this form, and
okay.
and this will be just as the normal flow. We can, I think it's still a point of possible improvement within this flow, yes. But maybe for a later iteration. Yes. Well, as we can see here, well, I've been reviewing some the original form, and I want to show you now the solution that we designed. So the flow would start, would really start in the login screen, but still not relevant for this right now. So we will start for the step where the user adds a new dispute, clicks on add new dispute. So they click on add new dispute, and the form, the overcharge claim form, will load. We tried here to maintain the same mental model as the customers have right now. So we try to maintain the same how you label the same the way of the information that is labeled, and which some enhancements on this. Starting with the claimant information, we have on one side the customer information, and on other side the contact information. The user here can place a custom customer information and contact information, or they can select out of the list. And this is one of the main inquiries that they have within the flow. Do we need, because what this search location screen does is when they select this and click on select, the information from customer information and contact information in the form will be auto-populated with that information.
Right, right.
Okay. What is this select claimant information? So you mean we will list all the customers in our system?
Yes. And what I'm saying about the location is I can show you a graphic on this. So an audit company, as I understand, has multiple customers, one or multiple customers. And each of those customers has different locations. So Walmart can have a Walmart in Portland, in Ohio, in Massachusetts, etc., etc. And for that, they will all have different locations. And each of those locations has one contact assigned to them. So taking this logic in account, what the user does here is that here they will appear all the, for example, ABC locations, if ABC is a customer or of that audit company.
So this is similar to what we have in internal app. You mean where we can enter some information for the customer match?
Yes, essentially it's the same, but I tried to make a proposal solution with a better experience than that. It's essentially the same functionality.
Okay, so basically in that, what we do is we let them enter some information, then internally customer match, and then they click on search, and they are able to
filter this whole list, for example, with ABC, click and enter, and this list will be filtered with only the results from ABC. And they will select from ABC customer, they will select the specific location they want to relate to this dispute. So when they click here,
in this scenario, they would see all accounts, not just counts related to them, and they would select. Or does this restrict them to only select or enter? Would they see all customers' names?
They will only see the information related to the customers linked to their account. So, for example, if we are talking about audit company A, and that audit company works with customer Walmart. So here, when they enter here, they will only see Walmart.
Okay.
But I think if they enter, instead of Walmart, if they enter Target, they will see everything for Target, right?
No. If they don't have the information from that customer related to their account, why they should see that information?
No, I'm just wondering how are we going to see how are we going to
customers XPO has.
No, what I'm thinking is how are we going to determine that? How are we going to control that?
Is there a way to do it? Sorry.
No, I'm just wondering from technical perspective. I'm just thinking about it. Yeah, go ahead, Karen.
Okay, so most of the claims, and this is one of the things that we had mentioned before about on our side, most of the claims, these audit companies have like I'm looking at one from AMTR. Okay, they don't have an address listed for their customer. All they have is Johnson Control, Inc., BE Group. So is it possible maybe just to have the name of their customer?
The name of the customer would be ABC in this case.
Right.
And the location would be MBA, for example. Also, another identifier of the location would be the second information place here, which is the full address. But this is something that we can work in order to provide a better identifiers. If you think that any other information related to that customer's location, it's a better identifier, please let us know. For example, the contact information.
No, I think what Karen is saying is, I think that they don't have the addresses, right? The customer address populated. But even if we add this address, Karen, is it going to be any issue, like if we have the address here? Or you think it is information that might confuse the customer or anything?
Well, not necessarily, but like they don't really have contact. Well, they may, but the way my understanding works from them is that the audit company has one main contact with whatever company it is. So they don't really contact the individual locations, but I just thought that might be able to simplify it so they're not seeing everybody's information if they just had, their normal names of their clients, which is how they identify everything, along with their claim number.
So other than the name, what is any other identifier? Is it the customer number or the MAD code or anything that they know? Will the customer know all that stuff? I'm just saying, like, why I'm saying that, because let's say, I mean, hopefully it won't happen, but let's say if it is the same name, right? Because if, let's say, Walmart is at 10 different locations, the name is just going to be Walmart, right? So how will how will you identify each one of them? How will the customer identify which one do I not need to pick up? Or they don't care about the location, it's just a customer name?
That's basically what I'm saying. For
Okay.
their claim purposes, it's just the name.
It's just the name.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then why do we have if you see in the internal app, right? We have to do the customer matching. Then why do we do that
Well,
internally then?
I actually mentioned that was actually difficult for us because they don't include that information in their claim.
Okay. I'm just gonna look up.
But still, it's something that you need to process a claim, right?
So internally, right, Karen? Internally, do you need that information to submit the claim today?
Currently, it's requested, yes, and we just pick one from a list. Honestly,
Or you don't care which one you're picking up?
not really.
Oh, really?
Just as long as the name for that claim is correct, that the actual customer, then we're good.
That's something new. Why?
Yes,
I'm just wondering why do we have that then in the internal app?
Well, for one thing, on their form, they're going to say a customer. We're going to pick, we have a list of customers that we normally work. The information is not going to be that critical because all we really are trying to find out is if we were going to send a check, who we would send the check to. And that's usually going to be the claimant. And we're just going to reference whatever customer they use.
So basically,
the claimant information is who the check is going to be sent to.
Oh, okay. So it's a claimant information that you are more concerned about, right?
Correct.
So I think, Martin, so I think internally also I'm looking at the application. It says the claimant. Let me share my screen real quick.
Sure.
So if you see here, it says the claimant information, right? It's not the customer. And then the requesting on behalf of is, I think, what you just care about the name.
I think you're not sharing.
Or not sharing?
I can see it.
You can see it? Yeah.
No, I can.
You can, okay. So here, this is the claimant information. I think this is more important and relevant, right? This has to match. Is that correct, Vivian and Karen?
That's correct.
Correct.
But requesting on behalf of is something that you could do even with just the customer name. Is that what you mean? So you don't care about what exactly this address and all that stuff is?
That's correct.
Oh, okay. So
would it be the same case for the other disputes?
Sorry, what was that? What was that, Martin?
No, that I'm wondering if it's also the same scenario as WNI and DRP.
I don't think they have the claimant information. 1 second. We can go and see.
No, they have different information there.
Yeah.
No, matching it's only for
OCC. OCC.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Specific.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. So,
yes,
means, so basically what I mean to say is that your form, right? Instead of customer information, I think it should say the claimant information. Will that make more sense?
I think so.
And that is when we will we will make sure that they enter the right information for the claimant. I'm going to make you the presenter again, Martin, and then you can. Yeah, so if you bring up the form again, so I think instead of saying claimant, you already have, right, what it says, the claimant information. I think we don't need to have what it says, the customer information there. So under claimant information, you have this text, right, customer information.
Right.
Yeah, I think that is what. So so if we change this to just the claimant information, Vivian and Karen, should we also add one more or a couple of more text boxes where it says customer information, just enter the name so that they at least enter the name of the customer?
Yes, they could freehand that.
Yeah. So
Because
basically,
normally, even if the claim is pre-printed from the claimant, it'll tell us who the customer is.
So I think, Martin, I think a couple of things. So all the information that you have here, company, address, city, state, and all that, that will be applicable to the claimant information. And then we can have another field where it says customer name, and that is where they enter the customer name, just the customer name. And if it is the same, then I mean, either, I don't know if they enter the same or they can say same as above or not applicable or anything. It's
okay.
Makes sense.
Yes, yeah, I think yes.
Okay. And what is this CIS reference number, Vivian? Like, is that something that they will have to enter?
I think that's more internal than for the customer. The customer customer information. What does that CIS stand for? Customer information.
Yeah.
Whatever. So it's more internal than external.
It's not the same as their reference number, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
So I think, is that something we can remove too?
Or change it to the customer's reference claim number.
Oh, change it to the customer reference number. Okay.
Instead of CIS reference number.
Yeah. We have to have the customer reference number. Yeah. We should say customer reference number. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, perfect. So moving to claim information. Second step here. I place here the request reason on one side and then the request explanation. Request reason would be the idea is to use this information to presume a possible reason code. So what the idea of this is that the user, for example, selects one of the possible request reasons, which would be, for example, I was invoiced, I was double invoiced, and if needed and if applicable, a second how do you say this? A second level of the reason could be included. For example, this happened and this specific thing happened before, after that. So I don't know if you understand this concept.
It makes sense.
So we'll for sure need your help here in understanding which are the possible scenarios where a customer or audit company does a claim, an OCC claim, in order to work all these possible options that the user could have in request reason and its sub-levels if needed.
Okay.
For request explanation, this is yes.
We can kind of, I think, just the reason codes that we have set up currently pretty much cover all of the scenarios for claims that are submitted. It's going to be, they're going to be questioning that how their rate was the rate applied correctly, if there was a reweight, or was there a class, or was there something with that shipment, and those are pretty much covered with our reason codes. And then we can have an other and have them freehand what their issue is. Sometimes it's duplicate payment. I paid this bill twice, and they'll provide all the details supporting that claim. Or it could be you billed my customer incorrectly.
They understand those research codes?
Yes.
Yes. So okay.
Yes.
So I guess maybe to start with, I mean, we can see how that goes, but we can to start with, we can use the same request reasons and see if customers are using them or not properly. Like maybe they might just come back and say, select one which says other, and then in the explanation they say some reason that is not listed, and we can keep adding those, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to show you something. I place here all the different reason codes that OCC has. I think it will be great if we have like a description of these labels in order to maybe make these labels a bit more descriptive for the customer. Obviously, if you find that this helps the user to understand what they have to input. It is possible if I send you this list that you provide me those descriptions.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, so one thing in request explanation would be that here it's mentioned the reference to NFC, tariff authority, etc. Do you find that it's possible to, or it's better for the flow if we parameterize this information? For example, instead of having like a whole text area where they can place anything that they want, to have like specific inputs to include this information?
I think it would be great if they could pick it from if they could select it and it applied. That would be great. And I'm thinking that most of the categories would fit their needs. It would match what their reason is. But I think that depending on the customer, some like to get really into the weeds about detail. They're going to want to explain their side, and this is their form to tell us what they believe that they should have been billed. And so just, depending on who the customer is, you can get kind of detailed about what information they want to provide us.
Right. Right. I think it might be if we have like different scenarios depending on the customer that it's being placed. I think the best way is to keep it flexible, at least from the initial phase.
Yeah, that's my thing. I think giving them an opportunity to explain the reason for submitting the claim, and then after we accumulate some data, maybe we can say this customer's usually going to say this, and maybe we can narrow it down and just make it a selection.
Right. We also can relate the request reason to the request explanation. So, for example, if they select a specific reason code which requires specific information, we can, in the request application, we can demand that information. So this could be a really flexible pattern of interaction, which reacts depending on the scenario that we are experiencing. But I think that, yes, I agree with you that it may be something to a room for improvement for the future of this form. Well, moving out to required freight bill information, here we place the same table that you already have. Just a specific point here, we are not validating this table. Like if they add the freight bill number, this will not be validated through the system. The validation will run after the user submits in order not to disturb the user's interaction and request, as you requested. So they will include here the freight bill number, the date, they will select it, the weight, they will include it. It will be a numeric value here, numeric input. The original invoice amount, it will be a currency input. The correct invoice amount also it will be a currency input. At the overcharge amount, it will be also a currency input. I think that here we'll also have to include a selection of the currency type, if it's USD or CAD.
I don't think we need the weight per se. And normally within the Edge application, if we provide the freight number, it populates all this other information. So the customer would need to submit the freight bill number and the dispute amount.
So you mean the pro number when you say freight number, right?
Pro number.
Okay. So date and weight aren't necessary, really.
Yeah, and so that date is really, yeah, that should be the ship date.
So I think we could auto-populate here as well because as it happens in the internal app, right? We enter the pro number, rest of the information is auto-populated. We could have that functionality. Yeah, we could have that functionality here as well. And they can obviously change it, edit it, modify it, but we can auto-populate it for them.
I think that's the way to go.
Yeah. So I think, Martin, this is the pro list, right? We have the pro list.
Taking account that we will run into validations of this if we do that. And also, it may not happen that the user has a different original invoice amount, that the customer has an original invoice amount different to what you have internally in the system.
Mm-hmm.
Like we may run into.
They could also submit. They may also submit a pro that's been purged. So which we have that issue right now.
Right.
But what the system could do is auto-populate the information that it has, and then any other information they may have to freehand.
So basically, you mean auto-populate and then let them edit whatever they want.
Edit whatever they want it to be.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Because the invoice amount that we have in the system is the one that we're going to go with.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So we can do that. I know validate shipment will be required. I know, Martin, I understand the validate shipment will be required. But I think here we are not going to validate anything, right? Because validation will happen on the internally. What we're going to do is we're just going to call the shipment details and just auto-populate this. We're not going to validate anything because we do validate internally because we want to see if there is any related dispute or related claim. I think here we don't need that. We're just going to auto-populate the data and then. and then let them edit it if they want.
Right.
Sorry. Yeah.
I may suggest to not auto-populate it for the initial phase, because we may run into having a possible automatic behavior from the user, where if the original invoice amount is populated, but still they on their invoice amount they have a different value, they will still may go over with the original invoice amount that it's auto-populated and not the one that they have in their invoice.
So generally,
we may run into that issue.
The invoice amount will, I don't think, Vivian, you tell me, because they will have the same invoice as we have, because we are the ones we have in a database, right? Because that is the latest invoice details that we would have sent them. So I don't know. I don't think we're going to have.
Yeah, the only problem I would see is we do have some companies who will submit a claim for overcharge of, say, for instance, they say, well, they double paid us. They may have paid LTL invoice, and then they may have paid a truckload invoice. They will try to submit that pro number that's really not a valid pro number for LTL. And so that's another reason they would not be able to submit a claim if we did have that validation process in place. And what we're starting to do now is decline all of those anyway, saying that this is not a valid pro for us, but I don't think we want to stop them from submitting the claim.
No, so
right.
Idea is not to let them stop. So validation, when we were talking about validation, we do some validation internally to make sure it's a valid shipment. It has, whether it has a related and dispute or claim or not. But what I was saying, that we can still auto-populate the invoice or shipment details here, and
if they have a valid pro. And if they
yeah, I
don't
mean, it
have
has to be a valid pro in our system. Yeah, it has to be a valid pro in our system.
Right. But my point is, I don't want to stop them from submitting their claim, even if it's an invalid pro. If that makes any sense, even though we would turn around and decline it.
Okay. Should we just leave it as a free text and not auto-populate anything and let them enter it?
I'm starting to lean that way.
Okay.
But I don't know.
I mean, that's fine. It's not going to be like it's just going to be 2 extra fields, because they just have to enter the pickup date and the invoice amount.
And so I need to discuss that a little bit further and think it out a little further. Do we want them to submit it if it's an invalid pro? Or do we force them to? Go ahead, Karen.
There may be instances, which we've had occur quite a bit, where the customer has paid us an error period, like they may have sent in their electric bill to us for some reason, where they're looking for that payment to come back, but they don't have a pro number. All they have are check numbers. So if we don't allow invalid pro numbers, we may have an issue.
Right. Okay, so I don't know what you think, Puneet, but as in my perspective, we shouldn't run any validations on this table, and we shouldn't auto-populate anything.
So I think auto-populate and validation are 2 separate things totally. So we don't need to validate anything, but we can auto-populate the invoice one. But I think it's fine even if you don't want to auto-populate, because it's just 2 extra fields they will have to enter, right? The date, exactly. Weight anyways they won't enter, and date and original invoice amount. So that's fine for now. Maybe we'll see, and then Karen and Vivian can think about it if it's going to save any 2 extra data entry points. But I am not saying we will do any. I said we should not do any validation, because validation will be performed internally, not on the external app.
I agree. As for the freight bill number, the customer understand what is a freight bill number? Maybe this is a very stupid question, but I want to check with you, double check this.
Yeah, so does the customer use pro number as a text, or they go by freight bill number?
What do they go by?
No, when you say freight bill number, do they understand that they have to enter pro number here? Or should we just change the field name to pro number?
Some of it call it invoice number. I can go pull up a few. I think that they would all know what that is.
Okay. I mean, that's on your form as well, right? That the form you have, so it's there on your form as well. Okay, we can continue.
As for the, they will be able to add one more row if they click add, or add include multiple freight bill numbers and information if they click on add multiple. The idea of this is, and I want to know from your side, which is the formats that they would use to do this, to include this information.
I would say Excel. A lot of what we're getting in that's really frustrating is they'll send us a copy of an Excel sheet instead of the actual document. So it's hard to, especially when there's several pros attached to it, but I would say the default would be Excel.
Excel.
Is that your question on how to add it?
Yes. Perfect. It is possible that you could send us over some examples of those Excel sheets that they send you?
The copy of the Excel or the actual Excel?
Well, whatever you prefer. I want to understand which is the information that they are placing there and how they are placing that information.
Okay. Yeah, they're just attaching.
In order to see if we can.
I'm going to forward you one. Let's get to this one. For instance, it's con data. I'll send you AMTR and con data, two of the major ones.
Can we continue?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll forward them.
Okay, so then the last part will be to include the documents, which I mentioned the same information that is on the overture claims form. And when they upload the files, they will see the list of the files here included. We don't have any validations around this. The validations will run afterwards from your side. And then to finish, we have two checkboxes they have to enter. One is that an agreement that they have included all the required information to process correctly the dispute, along with the message of what happens if they don't provide the required information, and also an agreement on the terms and conditions over the dispute, which is what we discussed in the last meeting.
Right.
Do you agree with that these are two things that are required?
Well, what
Hello?
will we, is there anything on the terms and conditions? What exactly will that be? Do we know? I mean, are you just putting a placeholder for now?
Exactly what it will be in the terms and conditions? No, we don't have clarity on that.
Okay. That's fine. That I think that will be solved.
But we need to work further on this.
Yeah.
Then the user will have three options: submit, save as draft, and cancel. Submit will take to the feedback on that the dispute was submitted, or it will display an error if something happens in the middle of the process. Then save draft will return to the dashboard and will say that basically we'll have the pretty much the same flow that disputes internal has. And cancel will return to the dashboard. They will have also, if they entered a certain part of information and they click on cancel, they will have a dialogue that will appear saying if they really want to close that dispute, they cancel the dispute, and that the information will be lost in the process and all that. Same as disputes internal current affairs.
Yeah. That's great.
So taking all in account, how do you see all this from that it pleases you in terms of requirements and in terms of UX?
I think it covers it. I think it's simple enough for them. Like I said, a little few call outs that we had about information that they need to provide. Other than that, I think it works.
Great.
Yeah. It's really
amazing.
Clean and discreet. I mean, so I really like it too.
I'm wondering on the two validations at the end. I agree with our terms and conditions. I need to look more into that, and I have included all required information to process correctly. The dispute, I would reword that a little bit and maybe use some of the terminology and verbiage that they're used to seeing from NMFD rules. So we might just need to revise that, and I'll look at, I'll get some, maybe revise the wording on that. And I'm not sure the terms and conditions. I need to look into that.
Okay, amazing. I will provide this information after this meeting, so you can provide us the final verbiage that you think it should go.
Okay.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay, that's all from my side. Yeah. I will continue iterating on this flow. The idea is for the next iteration would be to provide all the updates based on the information that we of the feedback that we got from your side.
Yeah.
And I may include some updates on the dashboard. But still, I want the focus would be to finish this flow.
Okay. Sounds good, man. Thank you so much, Martin, Vivian, Karen.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. I'm forwarding some emails currently, so.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Have a great day.
Bye.
And